Okay, so that's already okay.
Yes, we do offer the option for something that is ready for you.
Yeah, okay.
And we also have your flour, depending on the weight or the increments of what you're looking for. And then more of a personal choice. You have your glass option here.
So how would this work?
So with this, there is a what they call a carburetor here. What that is, that blocks your airflow.
Okay.
So once you add lighter, hemp wick, or even just a heating element to the flour itself.
Okay.
So the flour you just put on top of the
Oh,
bowl.
and then just heat it.
Yep. Use a heating element, lighter flame of some sort, and heat the bowl. And then you would inhale. When you take your finger off from that hole, that allows airflow, so you're able to get a larger puff.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Wake and Bake News, and I'm your host, Shampoo VTA, about to get medicated with you today. I loaded this bowl and I was toking on a little bit, but I needed fresh ice. In my adorable little bing, bing! I was thinking, wouldn't it be so cute to have like a whole miniature collection of all your favorite kind of bongs? Like little miniature Fabergé egg. Just, for shits and giggles. Just to have them like, on a shelf somewhere. Just to go, oh, look, like an example. You know how like in people that decorate their house in a cowboy style, they'll have like a window box picture up on the wall, which is just like a frame, and then it's about 2 inches thick, the frame with the glass, so you can set three-dimensional objects on the other side. So they'll have like the different kinds of barbed wire throughout the history of America, how barbed wire first started, and how it changed over the years as, people tried different kinds of barbed wire for their cattle ranches back in the day. You could do that with bongs. You can have like miniature little bong display showing all the bongs throughout history. You could have them just plastic. You don't even have to have them glass. They could just, like this is what they started out with, the plexiglass ones. Let's see, what did they used to call that back in the day? Oh my gosh, there's a name for it. The plastic, I forget what it was called. They didn't call it clear plastic. It had to have, of course, a special name. Lucite. I knew it would come to me. It's not something you say all the time. They loved to work with lucite back in the 60s and 70s. So our bongs were this clear plastic, what they used to call lucite, right? Plexiglass. All right. Oh, more bong jokes. I'm like getting ready to dive in. All right, so I showed you a video there, and that is some senators that had traveled to the distant realm of Colorado to investigate the strange culture there that was so distant and remote from their own. And that was Senator Jason Lewis learns about marijuana business in Colorado. Raw video, WBUR. Okay, and I thought that this video really kind of expressed something that, senators tend to be, politicians tend to be, and that's out of touch. So in order to illustrate this, I'm going to tell you this quick story. Milk prices and politics. All right, this is from fitsnews.com. Fits News. unfair, imbalanced. Okay. It says, ooh, does it have a date on this? Oh yeah, this is August 2nd, 2014. Milk prices in politics. Candidates better know their dairy. The price of a gallon of whole milk dropped from 3.73 in May to 3.63 in June. Data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, reveals that the first decline since last September, when the per gallon price dropped from 3.44 to $3.42. Okay, so $3.63 to $3.42. Of course, if our experience at a local Kruger grocery store in Columbia, South Carolina is any indication, the needle could be moving back in the wrong direction. We paid $4.09 plus tax for a gallon of store brand milk this morning, August 2nd, 2014, although the pre-tax cost for shoppers using the Kruger's card was $3.89. Either way, that was well above June's national average. Fitz keeps an eye on rising prices and their broader impact on the consumer economy, coupling national data with our own anecdotal experience as well as the experience of you, our readers. But the price of a gallon of milk is also very important in the context of politics, especially presidential politics. Okay. This is our anecdote that applies to the senator being clueless about marijuana. He's completely out of touch. Okay? Out of touch, out of mind. Okay? He is completely out of touch. How does this work? Well, sir, I'm sure that you've seen movies where pipes work. Why are you acting like you're a fucking moron right now? I think that's unnecessary. I think it's unnecessary to look at something that's obviously a pipe and go, I don't know how pipes work. Stop play acting. It's really offensive. Okay? That was idiotic. How could you ever argue that someone on the planet has not seen a movie where someone is using a pipe? We all understand how pipes work. Flame at one end, sucking up at the other. Pretty simple. Even Santa Claus has a pipe. Holy cow. Let's load another bowl. Here's our anecdote. During a 1992 debate with Democrat Bill Clinton and Reform Party nominee Ross Perot, Republican President George W. Bush was forced to admit he didn't know the cost of a gallon of milk. The media correctly pounced on the incumbent's failure to answer the question as evidenced. He was out of touch, out of mind. Okay? He was out of touch with the people. In 2007, Republican presidential candidate Rudy Giuliani told the reporter in Alabama that the cost of a gallon of milk was $1.50, less than half its actual cost at the time. In fact, for those of you keeping score at home, here's a look at the milk prices over the last decade. Okay, now I'm not going to go into that, but here's the point. Marijuana prices are exactly the same, aren't they? And how many politicians are completely clueless about that? So it seems to me that if a politician is clueless about the gallon of milk, then in a state where marijuana has just been legalized for medication, why are they being allowed to be so clueless that, I mean, they're not going to know how pipes work? And you know what I'm saying? That's out of touch, and nobody's calling them on it. And what's up with that? And why are we standing by as a community and not asking these questions? We should be. Why don't you understand where I'm coming from? You should. I'm pretty sure I'm a citizen. I'm pretty sure I'm a contributing citizen. I'm not good enough? I mean, what's up with this? It's getting lower. But it's okay. The laundry money has come today. Part of owning properties is owning laundry machines, and our laundry machines are competitively priced, and so we're able to get some income from that. Owning property is sure, you're worth a lot. You know, you got to keep reinvesting everything though to keep your business going. So, or to stay ahead and keep buying property, which is pretty much what our dealio is. We're always looking to buy more. Got my grinder here. You can't see what I'm doing. I need a 2-cam system. I got my grinder all grinded. Whoop. Just do a quick dump. So, quick note, Token Daily was talking about how in Colorado, all he needed to do was twist and brake, very much like California because the weather's so dry, right? But now he's in Hawaii. The situation's more like Canada. Sorry, all the straight people. This is stoner talk for those of you out of touch and out of mind and don't know what we're talking about. But his product is so much more moist that he's thinking about going back to like little scissors, you know, to break it up with, because the twist and break with the fingers is not working out like it used to be. So I was thinking, you know, what he needs to do is he needs the little shot glass scissor technique, which is where you take the shot glass and you put the scissors in and kind of mill it with the scissors. So it's a little mortar and pestle kind of thing, except you got, it's a little slap chop is what it is. A tiny slap chop. Except you're not slapping, you're cutting. It's a marijuana slap chop. Okay, so here I've got this bowl loaded so you can see the evidence that I am indeed partaking of marijuana. This is real. We're really cooking here. And now you, of course, oops, I'm moving it, try to get it, no. Oh, almost had it there. Almost had it. Oh. Remember that old guy with the dollar bill like on the fishing line? Almost had it there. Oh, that was funny. Oh, okay. It's like some commercial. Back to what I was doing. All right, so in 1992, they were successfully able to use this argument against a Republican candidate, both of them, George Bush and Rudy Giuliani, because they were absolutely out of touch and out of mind and had no clue what normal people go through. Well, marijuana prices and how pipes work and where they come from is all part of that. And these dipwads are clueless. If they knew, you know, things would be different. If they knew that, oh yeah, a lot of these bongs are coming from China now, the vaporizers from China. I mean, they know, but they got to act like in front of their constituents that they're clueless, okay? All right. So now we're going to dip back into the bandwagon, which I have an image for you here I would like to share to express how stupid the fallacy of bandwagons are. The Great California bandwagon. So as you can see from that old British political cartoon, that a bandwagon is when everybody uses the excuse that everybody else is doing it to basically pass laws. It is not a logical argument. And you heard it throughout the cities in California. Many of them said that we know this is rushing to a conclusion because everybody else is doing it, but then they went and jumped off the cliff anyway. They said, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay. So if you, I'm going to play something about what the fallacy of a bandwagon is. And this is by Packard pokes at. Packard pokes at logical fallacies, the bandwagon. So let's take a look at his video right here.
Say, friend, have you ever heard someone say something like this?
Seamus pointed a drunken finger at Sean and asked him to explain how so many people could believe in leprechauns if they're only a silly old superstition. Sean, however, had had a few too many Guinness himself and fell off his chair.
You have committed a logical fallacy.
This is known as the bandwagon fallacy. You appeal to the popularity or the fact that many people do something as an attempted form of validation.
Is this the right one for an argument?
I've told you once.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
When? Just now.
If you want to learn more about this logical fallacy or other logical fallacies, please visit yourlogicalfallacyis.com.
So basically the bandwagon fallacy, which is what exactly the excuse that all of these California cities are using, is that because everybody else is doing it, we're just joining in with what other cities are doing. There's nothing unusual about this, and they're sort of like in a circle, and who's going to break out of this bandwagon, right? Who's going to start doing things differently? Because the bandwagon argument ends up creating opportunities for people that do break out of that circle. But what opportunities? We're going to start talking about some of these things. I'm going to read to you this one from San Jose Mercury News Health. Santa Cruz County medical marijuana dispensary ring up more than $32.3 million in sales. Santa Cruz, while the medical marijuana industry is budding, business is booming in Santa Cruz County. The region's 14 dispensaries rang up $32 million last year from the sale of flower, concentrates, tinctures, edibles, and other forms of the drug. And it's a boost to local coffers. In 2014, voters in the city of Santa Cruz and the county of Santa Cruz passed Measure L and K, which levy a 7% tax on the receipt of receipts of pot retailers, with the option to increase to 10%. At the time, officials expected the taxes to bring in $100,000 annually for Santa Cruz, where there were 2 dispensaries until one closed in November, and $900,000 between November and June. The rest of the fiscal year to the county, where there are a dozen dispensaries in unincorporated areas. The county expected to collect $1.6 million for the full year, but got a bit more, $1.95 million between November 2014 and October 2015. The city also collected more than anticipated, $305,000 between January and December 2015. Let's see. Some of that money goes to both jurisdictions' general funds, and a large share of the county's revenue helps to enforce medical marijuana regulations. There's a bunch of cannabis grow sites in the mountains that are out of compliance with our ordinance, said county spokesman Jason Hoppin. The cannabis tax is being used to fund enforcement. Officials have gone to 130 grow sites around the county after complaints were filed, and they estimate there are hundreds more, Hoppins said. At the farms, they found weapons and reported extensive environmental damage. Weapons because they're in a remote area growing marijuana, and in extensive environmental damage compared to what? Wine manufacture? Guerrilla grows are mowing down forests, damming parched streams that carry struggling salmon and steelhead, and setting up camps that pose fire and other safety hazards. County officials say just now many growers are in the county, or how many are there are unknown. Now this, I understand what they're saying. They want to get rid of people that are guerrilla farming and damaging the environment. But you are only encouraging that by having a huge tax. Why do you think those people are there? They would disappear if nobody's up there fucking growing grapes. Nobody's up there with a fucking, a still, making moonshine. Nowhere. They're growing weed. I mean, catch a clue. Nobody's got a moonshine still in California. They're growing weed. To combat those problems, the county used half of Measure K revenue to buy a 4-wheel drive and to fund 1 sergeant and 2 detectives in the sheriff's office, a code compliance officer, and a part-time auditor. The county also recently established a temporary license system for small-scale grows while it works to create long-term regulation consistent with the new state law. At the time, that responsible dispensary operations are frustrated over the fact that patients are paying for enforcement against growers they want nothing to do with. What the dispensaries are selling is only a fraction of the cannabis that's being grown in the county. And Colin Dishroon, owner of Santa Cruz Mountain Naturals in Aptos, but without a universal certification system and regulations, retailers can't know for sure if they're buying cannabis from a grow site that's not in compliance. Dashroon also said some dispensary owners see the tax as them footing the bill for the county to come up with an ordinance for growing while they still can't apply for business permits. Because of extensive environmental damage in the mountains and deadlines from the state, the county has focused on rewriting rules for cannabis cultivation first. But Hoppins said efforts are underway to offer business permits in the dispensaries. Not having a permit creates a lot of challenges for us. A lot of businesses don't want to work with us, like banking institutions, lenders, and insurance companies, Deshroon said. I don't think a permit is necessary going to resolve a lot of our problems, but it's an acknowledgement that we're an accepted business. It's one more step towards legitimacy. The dispensary operators also say the cannabis business tax is too high, which drives some clients back to the black market and restricts growth. Deshroon and Brad Parkin, Chief Executive Officer and Central Coast Wellness Center in Ben Lomond, said they decided to pay the tax rather than pass a law along the patients to stay competitive. Pass it along, I guess, to patients to stay competitive. They're pushing the limits right now, Birkin said. Altogether, we're now paying 15 1/4% in tax. On top of the county's cannabis tax, the dispensary patients are subject to standard 8 1/4% sales tax on goods and services. Cannabis facts. Annual medical marijuana sales in Santa Cruz County are 32 million. Number of dispensaries in cities of Santa Cruz, 1. Annual medical marijuana sales in California, 1.3 billion. Number of dispensaries in California, only 1,200 to 1,500 for the entire state. Santa Cruz County, City, and Santa Cruz, California Board of Equalization, the Santa Cruz Sentinel Scotts Valley, California. Visit the Santa Cruz Sentinel Scotts Valley, California, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically their idea of beginning the regulations is to go after growing. So now you can't apply for a permit for a business, and they're going to regulate the growing. You know, so they're still not in, and especially at the end here where it said that there's only like the number of dispensaries in California numbers only 1,200 to 1,500, 1,500. I just got a question right now. How many liquor stores in California? How many liquor stores are there in America? No, whatever this is, we're not going to do that. Seems to be not easy to find. I know. Maps are always good. Let's just go to the map. Just put liquor stores in California. Oh, let's pan back here. Looks like quite a few. Not just in California, but all the neighboring states. Quite a few. Many of them seem to be culminating in places like Phoenix, Arizona, Mission Wine and Spirits, Liquorama. I'm reading from Google.com Maps search. Okay, how many liquor stores in California? Ledred's Liquor and Berkeley, long time well stocked. Total Wines and More. Gee, many Christmas. State of Utah liquor stores. You know, it doesn't, look at all this. Back up. Look at the whole entire United States. It takes like 2 seconds to figure out what the game is here. So 1,200 dispensaries in California, but enough liquor stores to kill, you know, 1 million fucking citizens, I guess. Oh, look at how many are in Fresno. Jesus. Where's this at? Las Vegas. Dear Lord. That's why Vegas has their liquor distributing, whatever it was, got like a deal cut, so they're backing legalization of recreational in Las Vegas, but only if they get a piece of the action. See? All right. Onward and upward. We're bringing the fire right here. We're fighting the dragon right here. We're fighting prohibition. We're the warriors. This is it. This is really happening. Okay. Next story. This is some of now the reactions from the bands. OC Weekly. EAZE, the coming of age of medical marijuana, ? January 14, 2016, 5 hours ago, with a big, huge, beautiful picture of like a mystery machine weed delivery vehicle with 2 funny looking guys hitting a vaporizer in it. I recommend you go to the site to see the image. Getting medical marijuana in Orange County isn't easy with the almost total prohibition OC has implemented on medical marijuana outside of a small industrial area of Santa Ana, at least. Finding a safe, legal storefront can be more than challenging, but as the industry continues to grow, technology-driven enterprises are competing to fill the gap. And right now, it's via delivery service. Despite ordinances in Anaheim, Tustin, and parts of South Orange County that prohibition any kind of marijuana distribution, the best way to go about getting weed in OC is via delivery. And over the last year, 2 large-scale delivery services have arrived in OC that would modernize the way marijuana delivery businesses function in the future. Marketing itself as the Uber of weed, EAZE promises to deliver weed to medical marijuana patients within 10 to 20 minutes because deliveries need to happen under 30 minutes, said EAZE CMO Scott Dunlap. Otherwise, it just doesn't feel as magical. He said, if we can't ensure consistent delivery in 30 minutes or less, I won't start delivering in a city until we can. Established 18 months ago by CEO Keith McCarty, an OC local and Chapman University alumni, EAZE is said to be the biggest such service in California. It makes thousands of deliveries a day and serves multiple counties between San Francisco and San Diego, according to the LA Times. But what separates the Silicon Valley-based company from other delivery services, however, is that EAZE isn't a dispensary. In fact, according to their website, the purpose of the tech platform is to function as a facilitator between buyer and seller. In other words, EAZE doesn't deliver their own goods. First and foremost, EAZE is a tech company, and Sheena Sharivi, EAZE's public relations chief, we work with dispensaries, but the drivers and employees but the drivers are employed by the dispensaries, and the physicians we work with are independently employed, she said. We really just supply the technology. We don't touch any of the product. Whether on mobile or web, the EAZE technology aims to offer clients a personal experience by creating smart profiles that learn about each person who uses the service as a result of tracking what strains a patient likes, how often they order, etc. EAZE can recommend products and help streamline the ordering process for patients. The most innovative feature of the platform, however, is their online evaluation resource known as EAZE-MD, the telemedicine service that connects patients with licensed physicians for a $40 marijuana recommendation assessment. Yes, you understood correctly. From the comfort of your own home, you can get a medical marijuana evaluation through EAZE's video conference service, and if the doctor writes off the opportunity for the new patient to get $60 off for their first, if he writes off you a prescription, you can get Kush delivered to your door within minutes. Additionally, EAZE also offers the opportunity for the new patients to get $60 off their first 3 orders. Oh, that's pretty good. Making notice as a patient, I went, ooh, that sounds good. Making the access and consumption of cannabis very convenient. Pretty neat, right? Yes, that is very interesting. Although marijuana delivery services that offer such advanced technology mark the coming of age of cannabis, keep in mind that companies like these are running under the regulatory radar. Businesses, thus, as Kush, is still illegal under federal law. It's important to order and receive pot with caution. But as Orange County's weed regulations remain airtight, delivery services are the best way to go about getting your ganja. We believe that medical marijuana delivery services should be regulated. So Shariva put but there's a right way to go about doing it. And we see that technology is a really great way to keep track of what's going on, as well as shed light on what's considered to be a dark market. So basically, what they're doing is they're connecting with the growers, and then they're delivering to you straight from the growers, and probably locally under the radar. Next one. Here's, start dancing around. Gotta wait a second, losing connection here. Momentito, por favor. So to continue with my theme about how alcohol companies are really part of what's going on, or distributors of alcohol, all right, and they obviously feel that they have the network to accommodate this. That's understandable, but they're going to gank us. They're going to jack up the price. Everybody that touches this or has something to do with it is going to be a gatekeeper that you're going to have to pay a tax or a fine or buy some kind of certificate from, so that the black market's going to thrive, because these guys and their corruption and greed is going to simply contribute to it. And then they're going to say, but it's legal, and we're going to go, come on, you got to be kidding me. This ain't like tobacco and alcohol. I could grow this in my backyard. Okay, so I want to show you this clever cartoon from Canada. This is called Progressive Marijuana Policy in Canada, Not Likely. Okay, and this is from the Toronto Star. Let's check it out.
Movie idea, Canadian Kush, starring James Franco as the new PM and Seth Rogen as his Minister of Marijuana. Dope smoking hilarity ensues. The truth, not so hilarious. Former G20 Police Chief Bill Blair is now in charge of marijuana legislation. The former fox has been handed the chicken coop file. Can't see this turning out very well for the chickens. Here in Ontario, we've yet to enter the 21st century when it comes to being able to freely buy beer. Do we really think we're going to be buying weed from this government anytime soon? Big marijuana metafirms, along with their political donations, sounds a lot like the beer cartels, are already lining up for Ontario's pot business. Somehow, I don't see Premier Wynne saying no to these guys. Progressive marijuana legislation? Right. I'll believe it when I see it. Till then, I'll keep my friendly neighborhood dealer on my speed dial. Dude, can I pop by? Great, see you soon.
So I think this guy's absolutely right. We better keep all of our dealers' phone numbers, because we're going to need them before everything's said and done. You know, in Canada, it's even worse because the government sells the alcohol in Canada. They're all government-owned stores. The employees have unions. The employees are eyeing the profits from marijuana. So in other words, these unions will become more powerful, because now they're going to be selling alcohol and marijuana for the government. And they're going to be a government, a public union, you know, public employees union. Isn't that exactly what Republicans don't want, or conservatives don't want? But here they are, just feeding it, just creating it. I thought that's what they didn't like, powerful public service unions, but here it's like, I want the alcohol unions to have the control of marijuana. I don't seem right. Seems counterproductive. All right. So now we're going to go to marijuana is not a gateway drug. So why do leading Republicans and Democrats say otherwise? Because of the story, the cartoon I just showed you, right? Alcohol maybe. Alcohol foot in the bill. This is from Alternate. Politicians such as Chris Christie and Debbie Wasserman Schultz have long been against marijuana law reform. Republican presidential hopeful Chris Christie and Democrat National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz may be on opposite sides of the political spectrum, but they share a multiple antipathy for marijuana law reform. As New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has spent years undermining the state's beleaguered medical cannabis program. As a presidential candidate, Christie has upped the ante, promising to roll back voter-approved legalization laws in states like California and Oregon. I will crack down on states where marijuana sales are legal and not permit it, Christie said, and adding on numerous occasions that his opposition to pot stems from his belief that it is a destructive gateway drug that causes our children to use other drugs. Likewise, as a member of Congress, Schultz has a long history of voting in favor of continued cannabis criminalization and repression. She is one of a handful of Democrats who voted in opposition to an amendment that sought to permit VA doctors to recommend cannabis therapies to veterans in states that already permit the plant's medical use. Increasingly legal access. Wait a minute. Things are moving around because there's stupid advertising. Here we go. It's hard to read. She is one of a handful of Democrats who voted in opposition to an amendment that sought to permit VA doctors to recommend cannabis therapies to veterans in states that already permit the plant's medical use. Increasing legal access to a mind-altering substance like marijuana will lead more people to travel down a path towards using more drugs, Wasserman Schultz argued. Both politicians' positions are not only out of touch with public opinion, out of touch, they're out of mind, they're out of their heads and they're not fooling around. They are equally out of touch with the available science, which has long dismissed the notion that cannabis in any way primes the brain towards experimentation with other illicit substances. It is a substitute for not doing that, for not having to feel like now I'm going to go turn to alcohol and go crazy with alcohol, you know. Marijuana's a bullshit detector. It's like a dowsing rod for bullshit, and dowsing rods don't work. I shouldn't use that metaphor. Bad metaphor. There is no conclusive evidence that the drug effects of marijuana, are causally linked to the subsequent abuse of other drugs. Authors of the National Academy of Science Institute and Medicine concluded nearly 2 decades ago. Shortly thereafter, a report issued by the RAND Corporation titled Reassessing the Marijuana Gateway Effect affirmed marijuana has no causal influence over hard drug initiation. Others concluded while the gateway theory has enjoyed popular acceptance, scientists have always had their doubts. Our studies show that these doubts are justified. Despite the recent rise in adult use of marijuana in the past year, nationwide use of most other illicit substances, particularly cocaine, have fallen dramatically. Moreover, surveys of legal cannabis consumers now consistently report that they substitute pot in place of other psychoactive substances, specifically alcohol. And prescription pharmaceuticals are like opioids. Perhaps that indicates the herb is more often than not consumed as an exit drug rather than a gateway to substance abuse. What certainly someone who's being paid by alcohol would want you to believe. Get out of here. Is this the most childish, stupid political game ever? Knock it off. Seriously, the adults are here now. Behind that indicates the herb is more often not consumed as an exit drug rather than a gateway to substance abuse. Recent studies show that cannabis is associated with more favorable outcomes among opioid-dependent people seeking outpatient treatment. Additionally, states that permit patient use and access to medical marijuana report lower rates of opiate abuse and mortality as compared to the states that continue to prohibit the plant. And morality. There's a link to it. What does that mean? I want to go through. I got a question. What's morality mean? Medical cannabis laws and opioid analgesic overdose mortality. Oh, I'm sorry. Mortality in the United States, 1999 to 2010. So I'm reading this right. That's what my thing is. Okay, mortality. Ugh, as compared to states that continue to prohibit the plant. As for the long-standing belief that cannabis use sequentially precedes the use of other illicit substances, newly published research features this claim as well. Writing this month in the Journal of School Health, investigators at Texas A&M University and the University of Florida reported that the use of alcohol and tobacco typically precedes cannabis exposure in polydrug consuming subjects. The study concludes alcohol was the most widely used substance among respondents because it's cultural. Okay, it's cultural, initiated earlier, and also the first substance most commonly used in the progression of substance use. But don't expect these latest findings to sway the rhetoric spewed by pot-hating polls like Christie and Schultz. Obviously, they mean politicos, polls. I hate calling them that. As Governor Christie signed legislation to stimulate increased hard liquor production in the Garden State, which is also home to 14 of the world's 20 largest pharmaceutical companies. Similarly, the DNC chair is no stranger to coddling up to big booze. Presently, representatives of the beer and wine industry rank as the 5th largest donor to Wasserman Schultz re-election campaign, until leading politicians wane themselves off booze, expect them to keep maligning pot. So in other words, they're being paid to do this. This is like, hello. And who wants control of this? The alcohol. The guys that distribute alcohol in your town. They have the network to do this. So what are they doing? What was I reading in the story about, earlier about wines, about wine companies and what they go through? This they were saying, look at the history of alcohol in California, and they said that, to slow it down. Okay, so what they're telling the cities and the League of California Cities is they're telling them to slow it down so that they can use law enforcement, either federal or local, to get rid of people that they don't like, and they will call them criminals, whether you are or not, okay? So they're going to make you jump through hoops. Come here, boy, jump through this hoop. They're still showing, see, local control, okay? So they're going to make you jump through these hoops, and when all is said and done, they'll have more control over the market to be able to profit themselves than we will. You know, don't expect to see legal marijuana coming in California as soon as we thought, because the cities obviously have a plan to try to control it. And you got to start looking at who's paying these politicians to do this. And I think we have to go back to the regulations. How did this get written into the regulations? How did this March 1st deadline get in there? And what is really going on? That's what I want to know. Okay, so that was a lot to talk about today. My network's kind of going up and down on me. That was pretty fun. All right, so some of the things that how this works, okay, is that you have the push from the cities. You still have people maligning marijuana. They're doing it for pharmaceutical companies, and they're doing it for, you know, alcohol distribution or whatever. Okay, whatever markets are being threatened. Okay, so marijuana reformer. This is Westward. Feds funded anti-pot group making world a less safe place. As we've reported, the Rocky Mountain High Intensive Drug Trafficking Area, a law enforcement group that receives federal funding, has spent the past several years churning out material intended to show the negative effects of marijuana legalization in Colorado. Now, you remember we've talked about, if you've been with me, you remember we've talked about this before, that there's like these police officers and they take their holidays and vacations to go moonlight, going to other states and telling them, oh my God, the legal marijuana is coming. And they pay them to do the speaking tour, and then they sell them fear and loathing and strategies and basically talking points on how to slow this down and keep this out of your community, or at least so you and your officers can transition into the market. See? So that the proper actors, the right kind of medicine, you see what I'm saying? They take it orally, CBD only, CBD, high CBD, low THC. All of this is now dog whistles for rich people want control. They want to be able to sell you some kind of Budweiser of marijuana, and they want to do it through your liquor stores. And that's what they see in 10 years in each and every one of these California cities. And they're going to get paid every step of the way. As we've reported, the Rocky Mountain High Intensive Drug Trafficking Area, a law enforcement group that received federal funding, has spent the past several years churning out material intended to show the negative effects of marijuana legalization in Colorado. Its latest effort is a series known as The Legalization of Marijuana in Colorado. The Impact is Youth and Adult Marijuana Use, which uses data from the National Survey of Drug Use and Health, sponsored by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, to argue that since legalization, Colorado has become the state with the most cannabis use by young people. The group's efforts have led to a slew of stories parroting, which means that they're mirroring, just as I do. I'm mirroring stories, right? I'm a mirror, and I reflect it back at you, and you reflect it at someone else. They tell two friends, and so on and so on. So we're mirrors, okay? We're parroting these stories. So I'm doing it too, you know, full disclosure. Stories parroting these claims, including the CBS 4 piece for a Fox 21 report on view below. Problem is info from experts, including a representative from SAMHSA suggests that the figures are being twisted by anti-pot zealots. And Mason Tevert, spokesman for the Marijuana Policy Project and a prime proponent of Amendment 64, which legalized limited recreational marijuana sales in Colorado, is frustrated that tax dollars are going towards these efforts. This is a small task force that's supposed to be spending its time coordinating interdiction efforts in an entire region, Tevert says. But it seems to be awfully consumed with trying to fight marijuana policy reform. We've included the RMHIDTA document below, along with the SAMHSA report, from which it's largely drawn, but here are the main bullet points cited by the group. Colorado is #1 in the nation for current marijuana use among youth 12 through 17 years old, college-age adults 18 to 25 years old, and adults 26 years old and older. Current marijuana use in Colorado increased 20% among youth aged 12 to 17, 17% among college-age adults 15 to 25, and 63% amongst the 26-plus years. Compared to national figures during the same time frame of -4% and 2% and 21 respectively. Current marijuana use in Colorado is higher than the national average by 74% among youth ages 12 to 17 years old, 62% among college age, and 18 to 25 years old, and 104% among adults 26 plus. Sounds damning, but perspective is offered by remarks made to the cannabis in December when the SAMHSA survey was first released. SAMHSA statistician author Hughes told the publication that Colorado's rate of youth consumption between 2013 and 2014 are essentially unchanged, since the difference between the number of people who said they've used marijuana in the previous months, 11.2% in 2013 and 12.6% in 2014, were statistically insignificant in the sampling. As such, the rates were deemed to be the same. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment head Dr. Larry Wolk, hardly a cannabis booster, said the same thing. Colorado was within the range of being #1 even prior to legalization. He's quoted as saying, "We've also had a higher use rate among youth and adults. It's something we've had to contend with, whether or not marijuana is legal. So that's not news. It's easy to get misled by numbers if you don't understand what's behind those numbers. Understanding doesn't appear to be the goal of either Project SAM or the National Anti-Pot Group that's ballyhooed Colorado's #1 status as the RMHIDTA, whose latest release strikes Tevert as undeserving of recognition as anything other than propaganda." It's not a report, he says. It's taking a government survey and re-releasing it and saying something different than what the survey actually found. The original report found that there's been no change, and it came out weeks ago. So it's kind of an absurd what this group is doing, quite frankly. But you also smell that it's some kind of salesmanship. So these guys are PR guys, because it smells, when they're twisting the facts about stuff, then it's definitely some kinds of salesmanship. Freezing. Freezing. It's not being. Here we go. Come on. Come on there. The advertisements are just killing the page utterly. It's horrible. Okay, so basically you get the idea that they're going to twist the numbers. They get into the newspaper and they start doing this. Now, why was this Colorado a police agency coming out with this rewrite? I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why this is. Okay, it's because of the first story that I showed you. Senators from like Philadelphia were going to Colorado, and they were being told statistics like there was almost no significant change in, you know, student use of marijuana since the legalization. And that was very frustrating for the forces in Colorado. So in order to kind of counter this news and keep that buried and bury the lead, and then run with this not news and not truth, they ran this story to try to drown out what was going on in the other story. Oh, the thing finally loaded. The federal government already spent money to research use by people in Colorado, and SAMHSA has the national survey, and it showed teen use in Colorado hasn't changed in the last several years. The National Institute on Drug Abuse has a survey that showed teen use hasn't changed. The Centers for Disease Control shows the same thing. And Colorado has the Healthy Kids Survey done by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment in conjunction with the Department of Human Services and Education, and that shows teen marijuana use hasn't gone up either. So in other words, these senators showed up there, they're being told these numbers, and this police agency's like, oh, quick, run the scam. Quick, get the scam machine. Let the spin begin, you know, okay, the spin whirlwind began. But this little group of narcotics officers has decided to put out something that says the opposite of what all these surveys show. And then through its not news, though it's not news, it's being treated that way by newspapers, okay? Does Tevert give the folks at the Rocky Mountain high intensity drug trafficking area any credit for the persistence, at least? They get no credit for anything other than making the world a less safe place by focusing on this rather than actual problem. He replies, they're more worried about fighting marijuana regulation than they are about keeping people safe. Here is a Fox 21 item from this week's, followed by the RMHIDTA and SAMHSA's documents. And you can take a look at that for yourself at this site. Okay, so as you can see that even when you do have good news and truth, they've gotten in with the newspapers because what you're seeing is PR. What you're seeing is money. And who's spending that money? I've seen this before because at one time the newspapers were running articles about what a wonderful grandfather Gaddafi was. And that's because Gaddafi's family was pumping money into a PR company or PR companies to save his ass. And it didn't save his ass. Okay, so this is a way to suck people out of their money as they go down because they're desperately looking for a magic bullet. And this is not it. So why is it when you go search marijuana or anything on Google and there's nothing but negativity? I think you could prove in a court of law that each and every one of those sites has a biased reason for pushing that propaganda, and that it is not true, and that is actually against people's civil rights, and it is making the world and the country a less safe place, because it only benefits a few. Okay. So I got a lot of editing to do. I'm going to let you go and get this done. I hope that was a good show. Still trying to pull the bits and pieces together here from the Bandwagon here in California. Wanted to also draw in on some of this national news and was very fascinated by these Philadelphia senators going to Colorado like it was a mysterious land, like this was Marco Polo going to China and eating noodles for the first time. Out of touch, out of mind. So I will see you tomorrow, Friday, the last day of the week. I'm making sure it's Friday. Oh, yes, Friday. Today's Thursday. And we'll make this change into money and see what we can do here with it. So you take it easy and you stay high and goodbye. All right?